ABC Thursdays.
Welcome back.
Grey's Anatomy is all new.
Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?
The drama going down
Bungee jumping from the bridge as cord snapped.
We need all hands on deck.
is unbelievable.
You think you're God's gift to this hospital? You're just another doctor.
My relationship with Catherine is complicated.
I'm gonna sue you.
Your lawyers know where to find me.
You're unbelievable.
Grey's Anatomy. All new Thursdays, 10/9 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
911, what's your emergency?
Oh my God. Please.
You said bees?
ABC Thursdays, 911 is all new.
That truck was hauling 22 million killer bees.
With the 3-part season premiere of that,
That's enough bees to kill
44,000 people.
Is that some bee NATO?
this one's gonna sting.
Help is coming!
911, all new Thursdays, 8/7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Hey, Holly.
Hey, Dave.
What is going on with yourself today on the What Difference Does It Make podcast?
You may be expecting some kind of Valley Girl lingo or some kind of sentence here where I show my Valley Girl-ness, but I'm not going to give that to you. I'm going to leave that to one's imagination and move on to our very special guest. Because would you say that Moon Zappa or Moon Unit Zappa is the original Valley Girl?
Well, she created this. She's
She
responsible.
She created the Valley Girl character.
I mean, well, she didn't create it. It was there, and she was smart enough to recognize, like, this is odd at 14. So it's Moon Zappa. She's, I guess you would call her a Valley Girl. She is the daughter of Frank Zappa and Gail. Frank and Gail are her parents, although we don't call them parents, or she did not call them parents. And it's all very weird, but it's all in her book, which is called Earth to Moon, a memoir. We're going to talk to Moon about her life as a Zappa.
She actually does refer to them as her parents, but she does not call them mom and dad. While she had a unique experience, it's very, very relatable.
Yeah, if you grew up in the 80s, you could still relate to a lot of what's in her book. She was a teenager in the 80s. We were teenagers in the 80s. She grew up in the Valley. We grew up in the Valley. We're talking to a peer. So we're going to talk to Moon, but we're also going to discuss social media, which we do just between the two of us. How do people find out more about What Difference Does It Make?
Hopefully more people are checking out our social media at WDDIM Podcast and our YouTube channel, where we will have outtakes of our talk with Moon at What Difference Does It Make Podcast.
Yes, if this is your first time listening to What Difference Does It Make, welcome aboard. You could sign up for our newsletter. It's monthly. It's no big deal. It's at WDDIMpodcast.com, which stands for What Difference Does It Make Podcast.com. We put out new episodes every Friday, so this is one of them. Welcome to it. Why don't we get into it, what we do here? It's a new episode. It's with Moon Unit Zappa. She has a book out called Earth to Moon, a memoir on the What Difference Does It Make podcast.
Hello, Moon.
Hi, Moon. How are you?
Hi, Dave. Hi, Holly. I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Thanks so much for having me.
I see, Dave, you have is that the UK copy of the book up on the screen? Can you see it, Moon? Is that?
That's the U.S.
Oh, that's the US.
Yes, that was okay. Yeah. Okay. So why are you doing like a Taylor Swift type thing with collectibles, book covers, and collect them all, trade them with your friends?
Why am I doing that?
I don't know.
Oh, no, all the publishers that bought the book, they put their own little stamp and flavor on the covers. So it's different countries do different covers.
So no approval. It's just whatever the cover's going to look like. You have no idea.
I have collaboration, and they show me stuff, and I can say I absolutely hate this, but I absolutely loved what they all did. I was really, really pleased with it, especially the U.S. cover in terms of the visual of it's kind of like a nod to the Little Prince, and I feel like it's me on the moon with my little garden of flowers looking at the earth, and then the British cover is all the colors I love. So they're both amazing.
Yeah. Okay. And then I also wanted to ask you about the actual title of the book. It reminded me of like Back to the Future. Hello, McFly. This was like, hello, Earth to Moon, which is what your mom apparently said to you all the time. It seemed like it's kind of like bullying in a way, but you wanted to put that as the title.
Well, originally the title was going to be "I Hope You Die" with the words "die" crossed out, and then "Love Me." based on a drawing I did when I was
Oh,
5,
man.
where it's Gail holding an umbrella over her head, but not over me. But as I was writing the book, this seemed like a more fitting title. And from birth, I'm born Moon Unit because I was the firstborn and the family became a family unit, and Moon because Frank gave Gail the choice between Moon or Motorhead. She selected Moon. I took my name quite literally, that I was just this ancillary object that was just circumnavigating the sun, aka my father. So Gail, when I was spacing out, she would say, Earth's Moon, come in, over, as though she was NASA headquarters. And so it started off endearing. And then sometimes she would weaponize it and say, Earth to Moon, the world doesn't revolve around you. So this was my way of reclaiming my name, my identity, and saying, this is how I see the Earth. It's from my perspective. So that's a little twist.
In theory, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thought, right?
I didn't know that people thought it was hilarious until I started being at a dating age. And then Unit also was a reference for your genitalia as a male. And it also, they saw me as a little lunar rover. I didn't realize that there was like a visual association with my name that I was just completely oblivious to.
Your childhood was your childhood. You lived with Gail and Frank, and your siblings came along, and you didn't know that this was your family. This is how families live, or you don't even at that age necessarily think about how other families are living, and you discovered it when you would go to your friend's house. And I relate to that only because I think at that age, you don't. You have no reason to think outside your own family unit. And how shocking it is. And it made me think about myself and my own upbringing, which was fairly Valley normal, whatever that is. And then,
well, that was my hope, that people would read it and do like a compare and contrast kind of a thing. And maybe some stories would read like science fiction and some would be relatable. And I hope you do take a second think and a second feel about your own experiences.
Definitely did. But also it makes you realize that even though our growing up experiences weren't necessarily the same, we were kids and we felt the same way. Like, you only think about your own experience, and then you have the opportunity to experience others.
Was it your experience the way it was for me, where when you're little, you're just kind of assessing the dynamics of your family? You're just kind of figuring out, okay, what do I say that makes them love me and smile when they see me? And what do I do that can give me more attention? You're kind of evaluating just the family dynamics, and that's already exhausting at 5 and beyond.
And really, what you made this point as well, you learn the things not to do. And, the things that are going to make your parents happy and what's going to make them unhappy. I remember vividly going to my next door neighbor's house and experiencing their family dinners and, the things that you experience with your friend. And wow, this is how other people live.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It absolutely relatable in that way.
Yeah, I remember there was a girl down the street, and she had they used mercurochrome for injuries. This
We all
pink
didn't.
stuff.
Always
Yeah,
in the
we
70s. That was a thing.
we did not have anything like that.
Oh.
I think there was, maybe we had some Neosporin. I don't know, but it was I was like, what is this? Wait, you light your skin up? Like, it just didn't. That was like, oh, it's so exciting. I can't wait to get injured at her house.
Oh. It was fascinating. The book, just the way the book is set out, like the first 100 pages is pretty much before you turn 12. You kind of wrote it in that voice. And I thought that was a unique perspective. I don't think I'd ever read something where, I'm laying the groundwork of why I'm like this for the first third of the book. Was that on purpose? And
oh yeah, thank you. Of course,
Yeah.
no, structure and storytelling. I mean, I've been studying these kinds of things forever, and so I appreciate that you're taking note of the things that I built in that help make the story a kind of a magic carpet ride / forensic accounting. I wrote the story honestly like I was a cold case detective, going, how did I get here? I took risks and seeing if I could grow a person up with my voice changing at each of the ages and stages.
All right. And I guess we should say, like, okay, Gail is your mom.
Yeah.
Frank is your dad. And
I was introduced to them as such from the time I was very small. They skipped the part where you grow up and you're a kid and then you become an adult and then you start to transition into calling your parents Frank and Gail. They just right out of the gate. They're like, I'm Frank and this is Gail.
What do you think their intent was at that point?
Probably to do things differently than how they had grown up. And probably they thought it was funny maybe. So probably that combination.
You think it was, so it wasn't like we're equals, we're both humans, no one is above another.
Well, that was kind of like the premise, I guess. But in practice, it was, hey, we're peers. You're just a smaller adult with no power. So it was, on the one hand, it was a mixed message.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
I mean, I'm sure a friend came in or a parent and it's like, why? Just why? Why is this? Did that ever happen?
I don't think anyone ever said. If they did, they didn't say anything to me. It would be, I think, weird for an adult to talk to a child and say, hey, your parents are doing a weird thing right now. That would be a wild intervention.
So did you know the word parents? Or was like when someone said your parents, did you know, oh, you mean Gail and Frank?
I don't even remember the word parents, really. I mean, I guess I must have learned the word parents. Oh, I think from, where did I come from? I probably saw that word. Might have been the first time I saw that word used.
Oh, well, I know. Unfortunately, it seems like you got like a live action version of that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I was trying to make sense. I was like, okay, these people are very portly and unattractive. And these people over here that are going at it in my living room are different than the people in this creepy book.
It was a creepy book. We all had it.
And it was just left. It was just left on a table.
Yes.
Oh, I've discovered. Oh, God.
I always remember because vagina rhymes with Carolina. That's how I always remembered it. That was in the book. That was the thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's what stuck.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what stuck out in my mind.
Right. And a tickle or a sneeze was the description of what happens when you rub two things together.
There you go.
Okay, so with your own daughter,
yeah,
was it a more traditional, like when she got to that age?
Oh, I was doing everything differently. I mean, I was, of course, taking some of the amazing things. We had nonstop art supplies around in the house and access to microphones and costumes and things of this nature. So I brought that forward. But I mean, I read every parenting book. I took parenting classes. When I discovered the work of Marshall Rosenberg and his book, Nonviolent Communication, I learned really about empathy for the first time. And it was a game changer in terms of parenting, because all the things I suspected were wrong in my house were confirmed in this book. Just basic things like, when someone's sick, give them soup. When they're sad, give them a hug. Just really simple things that I just didn't have. We were in some ways just completely feral.
You said you made friends at Oakwood. You made friends and you started going to their houses, and your observations of their family or familial relationships and the friends you made once you started acting. Did you have the experience of really observing their family dynamics? And did you notice then how different it was?
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, their rules were weirder than I felt that were the rules we had at our house. I remember one girl, I went to her house, and her stepmother insisted that we couldn't sleep with underwear on. We had to wash our underwear and hang it in the bathroom to dry and wear nightgowns and sleep like feet to feet. And I just kept thinking, but what if her foot gets under my nightgown and in between my legs? I was so concerned about having no barrier between me and her foot in my crotch. And I was like, this is a weird practice. We don't have to do this at my house, for example. And if that was normal, pass. And then at other houses that I enjoyed how they did things, it would be family sit-down dinner, or it would be people asking each other questions, or asking about their thoughts on things, and maybe somebody planning ahead and having breakfast waiting, things of this nature. I was like, this is unbelievable. Wait, you can have this every day? So I just tucked it away. I was like, I'm going to have that as soon as I get out of this house.
I can understand the feeling of being fulfilled by somebody who takes something away from the book. And I think plenty of people are going to take a lot away from the book. I felt an immediate kinship with you, except that you said your favorite Bay City roller was Derek.
I love a cleft in a chin.
He's not the obvious favorite.
Well, he was to me.
Yeah, I know.
Were you Woody?
I was a Les, which I think it was the most obvious.
Fascinating. Okay.
Fascinating. All right.
What does that say about a person, right?
Did you also have a crush on Frida from ABBA? Because she also had a cleft in her chin?
Oh, so you have a thing for little deformities, as so to speak.
Oh, you're gonna get some mail. That is not a deformity. That is a kiss of hotness.
The kiss of hotness.
It really is.
All right,
It is hot.
you have the name of your next book, A Kiss of Hotness. Moon Zappa.
Clefts are hot.
Clefts are hot. All right, and also speaking of 70s icons, our last episode is with Red Cross. They happen,
Very cool.
Yeah, they happen to mention you in the book.
I haven't read it yet.
They said that they were really nervous because the first scene was with Moon and that you do a great Cher impersonation.
I do.
If I
could turn back time.
There we go.
Yeah, I love that show. Oh, yeah. That and Carol Burnett, those two women, I just thought, yes, they have it. And also Marie from Donnie and Marie. I had such fantasies about Dweezil and I just keeping the set, D&M, and we replaced them. That was a complete fantasy as a kid. I just thought we could do this.
He almost did. I mean, on MTV, kind of. Almost.
I know, sort of.
There you saw it. What'd you think, huh?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah.
It's your first look at the Picasso brothers together, the masterminds behind Dave's videos. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they should have had the Spanish gal, Maria Vidal, in the video a little bit more.
Well, it's only their second video, and it's a world premiere exclusive from the Eat 'em and Smile album, But I don't know. I mean, the fat guy kind of has Dave's eyes, don't you think?
No.
You know?
Oh,
Oh, come on.
no, not even.
You think like
Please.
obesity rose in this
No,
film?
you know what it is? I think it's Max Headroom. It is. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
It is.
that's probably who it is.
But I think the thing that was problematic growing up, and you'll tell me what shows were influential in you in a bad way, but for me, seeing I Dream of Jeannie, which I both liked and hated because I was like, what? How come she has to call him master? And then on Bewitched, how come she has to hide her talents? But I also could relate.
Yeah, those were shows from the 60s. It was of the time. I guess it is.
What were
like
the shows for you?
Brady Bunch,
Okay, right.
and Donnie and Marie. We did, family friendly. Yeah, families.
That's a pretty early, keen observation about I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched. His didn't come to that until much later.
Were you raised in a way where you were of service to your parents and bringing them food on a tray?
No.
Well, maybe that's why.
Good point.
But also that might have been because, Gail and Frank, they didn't have titles at all. It was just by name. TV was weird. Still, it was always weird when you look back at it.
I feel bad for the kids from the 90s where it's just shows about kids in show business. They got it the worst as far as like
those Disney kids. But I guess you wanted to get into TV.
The thing about it is growing up in Los Angeles, our export is the entertainment industry. And so I didn't even know that there were other options. I wasn't exposed to people that were scholarly or people that really did other jobs. So I didn't see other possibilities. Honestly, it's just you kind of are just familiar with what's around you. And also those systems were familiar to me because when you're acting, much like growing up in my home, there are a lot of rules: where to stand, what to say, what clothes to wear, how to represent for production. These were familiar ideas to me.
I was also curious about you mentioned stand-up, like you did on Cabaret, I think. And I was wondering just what was your stand-up like? It was like get to know, you're supposed to stand up as kind of like trying to get to know who this person is. What was your MO? How'd you introduce people? Was it like, did you kind of like go into your family dynamic or was it just something outside of that whole life?
Well, my father was the funniest person that I knew. And again, I was really drawn to Carol Burnett and this kind of improvisational and written funny material. And so I was always drawn to comedy. I was taken to see Lily Tomlin early on, and I was amazed by what she did. My father did Saturday Night Live a couple times. And so I was, again, comedy and that way of performing that style was interesting to me. And I was always trying to pay attention to the kind of humor, if it was mean-spirited or self-deprecating, or if it was kind of, cheesy, if you worked with a prop. I was kind of just analyzing all of that stuff. And I was also kind of exploring, do you do it to please yourself or do you do it for an audience? So for example, I didn't really get much out of saying the same things in front of different audiences. I didn't enjoy that the audience was the variable. And so for me, I preferred a kind of avant-garde way of working where I would just do these weird premises and I would only do them once in a kind of so one thing I did that made me laugh was I wrote a scene that's from a movie that doesn't exist starring me and Colin Farrell. And I brought a member, and I won an Academy Award for it. And I brought an audience member up to read Colin's dialogue so I could redo the scene. And I was a Pastor Prime stripper. And so the audience member had to just keep reading disturbing dialogue. He was just saying the rudest things to me. So I have a stranger way you're such a pig. Look at you, pig. Oink, oink. Like it was just terrifying. And I cried and I wore this outfit that was just wrong to wear. And so these are the kinds of things that I would like to have audience engagement and put everybody in an uncomfortable situation. I don't know. That was the kind of stuff that made me laugh.
I don't think Carol Burnett did that type of thing.
But she did have scenarios.
That's true. Yeah.
So I just kept going. I just kept moving it further down the spectrum.
Very uncabaret. So you did find a home.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that you probably felt like a lot of these comedians were kind of your peers.
Yeah, initially I was telling stories about my family, which weren't funny to me, but the audience thought it was hilarious. And then after I exhausted that, I started to just explore, well, what is funny to me? That was more fun for me. It's almost like when you write fiction, it's more revealing. So the things you're actually interested in, I think, are much more dangerous because it's who you really are. So I found that both scary and thrilling. That part of it.
Look at that. You like balancing on the tightrope. Good for you. It's amazing.
Well, I was raised on it.
Well,
so,
that's
yeah.
true. Okay, and you mentioned your dad on SNL. He kept making note of how phony this whole showbiz thing is live.
Your name?
Frank Zappa.
What is your function on this planet?
I am a musician. And I'm giving a concert. No, that should be out there. That should be in there. Oh, yeah, and Connie is my special guest.
Concert?
Concert, a voluntary gathering of humans to absorb sound patterns.
Primat, assist our young one while I communicate with this human. I invite you to consume mass quantities.
He was not asked back.
No, I know. Was he banned from the show after that?
He was.
Yeah.
He was banned.
So you've watched it. What do you think of that performance?
When I watch it, I don't think about it in terms of the performance. I think about it in terms of my father's experience. I'm watching for what he's objecting to. And I'm watching for, just how he was treated and how he treated them. I'm watching the dynamics more than anything else. I find it fascinating. I've looked up all the people that were banned and seen what their episodes were. It's fun.
You mentioned like you can perform things twice, but you saw, I mean, you know how musicians, like I'm sure you went to many of your dad's or Frank's shows and he's playing the same song. I mean, I know it's a lot of improv and stuff.
Oh, so, no. He had different set lists for every single show.
Okay, so that's where that.
Yeah, and he also built in improv in the shows as well. So he was,
every show was unique. There was nothing. That's just
as far as I know.
Yeah.
That he just kept changing it up, and so I think that was also obviously influential on me. The first time I really thought, oh, maybe I could do this, was seeing Janine Garofalo. And she had a joke that made me laugh when she's describing trying to get a waitress's attention so she can get the bill. And she just keeps pointing at her wrist as though it's a watch. And finally, when the waitress eventually gets to her, Janine goes, "What bone is this?" And it just made me laugh so hard. This idea of like, she's so irritated, but she does, the way she handles it is just to, engage in a very unique way. It always made me laugh.
You're talking to Moon Unit Zappa. Pay close attention, and we will be right back.
We're back on the What Difference Does It Make podcast with our guest, Moon Unit Zappa.
Okay, so back to the music. Growing up, when we did, so I know you've mentioned before listening to K-Rock and being, influenced by K-Rock. Do you feel like you had more varied tastes because of what you grew up with in music?
I don't know. I mean, compared to who or compared to what? In my house, I mean, Frank was he was grumpy about the fact that he wasn't maybe at the level of the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or the Beach Boys or whoever was very, very popular. It was frustrating to him to see his music not having that wide appeal, which makes me laugh. He's like, have you heard what you do, father, dear father? But he didn't have radio airplay. He was more beloved in Europe and particularly Eastern Bloc countries where it was hard to get access to something, and they would want to have music that they could listen to over and over again, which my father's world of music certainly allowed for, because you can't just get it on the first listen. And it was satire, it was wild time signatures, it was dissonance. He just played with every single musical thing you could play with, and so that was not what was popular on the radio. But in terms of my interest, he would bring records home. That's how I got exposed to the B-52s, Lena Lovitch, Nina Hagen, Gang of Four. He brought that album home.
I do remember hearing Frank Zappa on the radio on KMET on Sundays because of Dr. Demento. He played Frank
Right.
a lot.
Right. So, but it was seen like Dr. Demento, as I recall, it was seen like more like novelty kind of stuff, right? Or
Right.
would you say?
Yes. Yeah. Don't eat the yellow snow and, titties and beer, all that stuff. But it was a great entry into him, like clearly humorous. But then you're like, well, what else is going on in here? There's a lot happening in this song,
Right.
musician wise. So it was actually a great entry point for a lot of people into his music, I feel. Did you get to meet the doctor during that crazy time?
I feel like I must have. I certainly met Weird Al.
Gotta remember meeting Dr. Demento. Come on, no.
I mean, I don't have any particular.
Top hat, tuxedo.
No, I know exactly what he looks
Yeah,
like.
I
but I
don't.
don't know if I know what he looks like from seeing photos or if I actually saw him like that in person. I'm sure I did his radio show. I'm
Right.
sure I
That's
got
what
it.
that's what I meant. Like, because I know, you were always on the top 10.
Yeah.
All right, the MTV years.
Mm-hmm.
I love the story, the Katie Lang story.
Oh, yeah. It's an amazing story. So basically, I tell the story in the memoir. It's one of these moments where I get a comeuppance and a gift from, an amazing singer and artist. And so what happened was I got the chance to audition essentially for the role of a VJ on BH1, which was the adult version of MTV. And I was supposed to just interview her. And the person who was my producer, he had a lot of notes for me just to not move my body, not speak with my hands, to just stay very still so they could just shoot the back of my head and shoot over my shoulder at KD. He had me a list of things I wasn't allowed to say, and it went on and on. So it was a very stiff, uncomfortable interview, and it was very stressful. And at the end of the interview, Katie leaned forward and she said, "What are you doing?" And she answered a few things in the interview where it was like so stinging that I had an out-of-body experience. I thought, oh my God, if I was at home watching this, I'd be like, yeah, that's hilarious. She's really going for that interviewer, but the interviewer was me. And so at the end of that moment, I really felt like it just burned and just kept I just looping on it. And what I took it to mean was, why are you doing this idiotic job when you're the daughter of Frank Zappa and you have talent in your own right? Why are you reducing yourself to just being a riffraff interviewer, basically, a pariah in this field? Because journalists, they were considered well. So it really haunted me. I don't want to give away the ending, but let's just say I had another encounter with her miraculously and got to have a conversation with her about that time. So there's a couple of stories like that where it does make you think where the universe conspires and you cannot believe what happens.
So that brings up a good question too. I mean, you had to, as I mentioned in the first third, it seems like they were specific moments that happened that you had to search the recesses of your mind, and that's a tough thing to go through. I mean, how many, I know you weren't writing these down as they were happening, but still they're stuck in your head.
I was journaling about it. I was like, well, that was a tough day. That was weird.
So even as an 8-year-old, you were writing this down? I mean,
I started journaling at 5.
Oh.
Yeah, I have all my journals. I've got something like, 217 journals.
So that,
I can't wait to burn.
So that is unique. But then just going through that again, that must have been just
painful.
Yeah.
And the thing is I remember seeing Jane Siberry. She went back and recorded songs that she had written when she was a teenager. And she essentially went back and this was so touching to me, this idea that an artist would have such compassion for their early explorations and then honor that girl that she had started out as. And then she recorded those songs with the tenderness of an adult and just got to really bring those songs to life. I just tucked that idea away in my mind and I thought, that's profound to me. I'm getting teary and choking up thinking about it. That was amazing.
That's exactly what you did. Yeah.
I know.
Sweet.
That was she made a little bit of a map for me in that sense. So
as a gift, you received every year a journal.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What do you think their intent was? Just to be creative?
Well, I maybe in the beginning it was to accompany a Pentel pen set or some crayons, but later journals were not considered good gifts. That was like, oh, I really wanted a baby alive, but I got a journal. You know what I mean? Or I really wanted a Madame Alexander doll, and all I got was this journal. And you know what I mean? So, but I still made good use of them. But so early on, they were amazing. And then then you get to your own. You move out. You're like, oh, I'm back to journals are sacred again. And so then you're looking for. I was anyway. Italian paper. I mean, I'm still a paper and pen fanatic. I love them so much. Yeah, I love it.
Reading those journals, did you recognize that little girl, or was it like surprising to you? Like, I mean, you remember, sometimes you have like a different memory of how things went, and then you read this journal of how things actually happened. Like, oh wow,
it was
interesting.
Yeah, it was more like, oh, that did happen. I didn't just invent that. And in some cases, it was like, oh my God, you are so lost, and I see how you got there. You know what I mean? So it was like that. And in fact, when I turned the memoir into the publisher, I left out all of the Valley Girl stuff by accident. It was completely in my blind spot. That whole time was just not included. And they're like, maybe you want to talk about the thing you're most known for. I was like, oh, okay, I'll take a second look at that. So going back to that time, I don't know how I missed it.
You were busy during that time.
Well, it was a painful time, and I guess as a friend said, press on the bruise, and I wasn't ready to press on that bruise just yet.
Put some mercurochrome on it; you'll be fine.
Exactly.
When you tell the story, you have such a nice way of telling the story of how Valley Girl came together.
Mm-hmm.
That brings up that makes the reader feel the pain you had been feeling and the joy in getting to work with Frank.
Yeah.
You tell it with humor. And I think some people will see the pain, a lot of the pain, and some people will see a lot of the good fortune, more than good fortune.
Yeah, I mean, again, my hope was and is that people will see themselves in the life stages that we all have the opportunity to kind of go through. It just so happens that the cast of characters are, in my weird case, were musicians they might know, or actors, or personalities. That's where I played those situations out. But I do think that ultimately it's just about a girl with a successful patriarchal dad, and trying to find my identity in that situation when this is the person that was the most inspirational person.
I watched the when you were on Letterman with your dad. It's hard to believe you were just 14, but I feel like you were performing more for your dad than for Letterman. Like I'm with my dad.
Probably, yeah.
Like, okay, this is nice. It's just kind of it was good to see the two of you together and just interacting. But just to hold it together as a 14-year-old, I no 14-year-old should be that composed, but you held it together. You were like really amazing.
Yeah.
And all the comments on YouTube were like, I can't believe she's 14 and she's so amazing in this interview in front of Letterman, who's just very imposing.
Right.
Well, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but these are peculiar names for children.
I don't think so.
Has it been a problem for you, Moon, being known as Moon Unit?
No, not really. When I was little, I wanted to change my name to Beauty Heart or Mary, but I think that I like my name.
But in my head, I'm like, I have geometry homework, and I hope my outfit is acceptable to my friends back home. Do you know? It's just that's. Yeah, so it is fun to see how it presents itself, and you never know the experiences of the person standing next to you, if they're on their way up or down, or what they're going through. I think that's another hope of mine with the memoirs, that whatever projections people have about fame or about my family particularly, that they can just notice where they add something extra, or we all do that. That's a normal thing to do.
You also pulled back the curtain on the experience of that, what it's like to be, to make those rounds, and, from the 14-year-old perspective.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and unfortunately there's YouTube. I also watched the Solid Gold performance with the Solid Gold dancers. What
right.
Were you lips? I mean, that's just crazy. I can imagine
that we ever had shows where the entertainment was watching someone lip sync. I mean, it's what?
Yeah.
At the time, we would watch our favorite bands do anything on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it must have been surreal. I mean, I'm sure you watched Solid Gold, as a 14-year-old, maybe?
Yeah. No, I definitely did. But I definitely also, in the same way that you would hear canned laughter and be like, why is that on there? It was like, why did they ever add that? It was just terrible. Or Muzak. everyone knows it's awful. Why are we doing that? You know?
You thought about this then?
Oh,
Yes.
well, but I saw the behind the
did.
scenes of how productions were assembled.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if I'm happy that I was oblivious at the time to that kind of stuff. And then when someone pointed out, like the first time somebody pointed out canned laughter, I was like, oh, yeah, you can't not hear it.
Oh, come on. There's
Right.
canned laughter on the Flintstones. So, they weren't,
Right.
wasn't a live audience there. Just never thought of it.
Exactly.
Don't diss the Flintstones.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. But yeah, you watch, I remember that was the thing with MASH. Like the studios wanted canned laughter in this. I remember buying the DVDs, and you could watch it with canned laughter or you could watch it plain. And just watching it with canned laughter just like takes you completely out of where they are. It's insane.
Yeah, and actually, I'm wondering, has anyone ever done a documentary about canned laughter? I mean, it's a really weird thing, like that laughter should be there, and you're prompting somebody to be like, do the thing. It's weird.
You've
The
seen-
whole thing is so weird.
You've seen Annie Hall. There's there's a scene where they're playing with the laughter. Okay, now add a little bit, sweeten it a little, and then that's when Woody Allen gets a headache. Oh, I can't do this. This is just ridiculous. And
I love anything that's a behind the scenes thing. I'm just thinking about like broadcast news or Larry Sanders or anything that where you get to see the forward facing situation and then the behind the scenes. I do find that really interesting.
But you lived it. I mean, for that Katie Lang interview, that was horrible direction. I mean, that's terrible to limit. You don't tell the talent what to do. When I was reading that, this is just, everything was wrong about that. And but your first time. And so like, okay, I'm just here. I'm your puppet baby, whatever, you tell me what to do. And I'm sure, did Franks have some words after that or after he saw some of your performances?
I don't even know if that ever got to air. I don't
really?
recall, but it might have been so disastrous it didn't make it. But somehow I still got the job. Again, I think the memoir takes the reader through many failed attempts at many professions.
What do you think your daughter would say about her upbringing?
Well, I mean, that's definitely a question for her, but I think, like most kids, you don't want to think about what your parents are up to. It's embarrassing. It's boring. You want your adult to be the thing that's looking out for you and to just on standby for, like, with a safety net to grab you and catch you. And that's certainly what I wanted. And I think too, people that are experts in things are in a lot of cases, it's because they were missing those things. I saw some meme that said, you become the person you wished you'd had growing up. You know what I mean? I think that's certainly true for me. I became the mother I wish I always had. I try to create the family experience that I wish that I'd had. Obviously, as we hopefully do, take the best and add our own flavor to it. But yeah, parenting is my greatest joy because that is how I got to rewrite some of the or right some of the wrongs I felt I experienced. And then writing is that next stage, because when you can really name something well and accurately, as I described, I interviewed Bjork once, and she said that she makes an energetic double of herself when she's creating. And that's what that equalization creates, that pressure release valve. And so I think that's part of the process of artistic endeavors. Mysteriously, when it's done, you know what I mean? And you're just, naming it accurately, I think is something important.
Yeah, it's like my kids are better versions of like how I wish I was. Like they're so confident, and they're just like, they go through life like, of course I do this, I do that. I have these
You
friends.
want them to go farther and faster and figure stuff out sooner.
It's insane. Like they don't have anything holding them back. They're fearless. I wish I was fearless. I think that was the thing my parents instilled in me, is the sense of fear. Like, don't keep it safe. Don't get tattoos, because no one's going to hire anyone with tattoos. Don't color your hair. So I was the straight and narrow kid. My kids are not like that now. They do what they like, and they're successful and they're doing well. So yeah.
But that's something we all learn, whatever individual experiences is, that you've laid the foundation from them. We're not telling them, do this, be fearless. You lay a foundation for them that you don't even realize you're doing, but is something that you didn't necessarily have yourself. And
yeah. I mean, I do describe that those parenting classes in the book about. I mean, something that's so obvious. We did this one exercise where you would partner up with your partner, and you'd stand on a chair, and you would stand over them, and you would say, go to your room, or shout, you go have a timeout, which you would never do to an adult. So why on earth would you do it to somebody who has literally no information? And it just became clear that's abusive. That's madness to speak to a child like that. And so that's, again, when I was in those classes, I was like, wow, a lot of this stuff was not okay. In hearing people's response to the book, it's like letting me get to have the feeling that I couldn't even access before. When I hear somebody say, that's so sad, I'm like, was it? Oh yeah, it was. That sounds hard. It was hard.
The teacher at Oakwood that recognized
Yeah.
what was going on, and you didn't recognize it at the time. I thought that was a
Yeah, yeah,
powerful
yeah.
story, just to
Mhm.
like someone who's willing to like kind of raise your antenna, like, okay,
Right.
maybe this isn't normal behavior.
Right. The other piece of the story is asking the reader to decide for themselves, is genius worth the collateral damage? Because genius is very often given a pass on the day-to-day stuff because they're a genius. And when I hear the word genius, I think, who's doing all the work that the genius won't do? Art and music and TV, these things really saved my life. They gave me a sense of, oh, I'm not the only one experiencing that. And each kind of art form does something different to you. I mean, music, oh my, you could play it over and over and over again, and just it's an engine. And that's the combination of music plus movement. I mean, it's so healing to shed and difficulties and clear your head. And if you've ever experienced anything like this, then you're not the only one. You're not alone.
Obviously, musical family, but when you met your ex-husband, did you like the music?
I was not a fan of the music. In fact, I was like, oh, why is he in that band? But at the same time, I was marveling at how well they did it. And I remember there's a comedian, Frank Barrent, and he had a bit that he would say, have you ever tried to write a pop song? I mean, people say, don't sell out, because have you ever tried to write a hit pop song? It's impossible. Like, there's really no such thing as selling out. You can't sit down and say, this is the sellout song. This is going to be the one. It's just not a thing. You make art, and for whatever reason, it's arbitrary things that catch fire. I mean, there are structures to follow in some cases, or people are used to a certain thing. But I was just amazed at what it was similar, where the dad issue was alive and well in that marriage. Was he's a hard worker, that everyone is in that band, and they work at a level of excellence. And so that was the thing that drew me. And plus, my father was a drummer, and it started off as a drummer. And so the divorce happened once Paul became a lead guitar player. Once he switched instruments, I was like, I'm out.
That was it.
What's the connection?
Yeah. I know your dad initially did not, consider Valley Girl a sellout song, but after it became a hit, I'm sure did he think of like, oh my God, did I create a sellout song?
No, I think that was, the labeling came from the outside world. At first it was very well received, and then people were calling it a novelty song. And he was in his 40s, hadn't had a radio hit, and he had, I think, 30 albums to his name already, and that's the breakout song with me on it. So I think there was a lot of mixed feelings about it.
Was Gail ever called Grandma? What did she want to be
She
called?
was Grand Gail.
Grand Gail. Grand Gail.
Grand Gail.
I laughed out loud at that.
Like the Ku Klux Klan, just kind of the grand.
And it's funny that you say that, because in the wedding scene in my book, she, in her mind, in her planning, she wanted every guest to wear a white robe with a pointy hat. And of course, she's thinking Druid. My sister's thinking, what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the bride wears white. The bride wears white.
Right. If I get one day, please, Gail.
Why are the guests all wearing terry cloth robes? This doesn't make what? Anyway, hilarious.
Hilarious, is it?
I know, right? I know, right?
It was on your website. You have teas. What's a moon tea?
Tea was my happy place growing up. That's one of the places that I found respite, and I love tea. I'm a foodie. I have a tea line. Yeah, as you said, you can find it on moonunit.com. I have a smoky Earl Grey with rose petals. I did a special tea for the book. It's called Earth to Moon Unit Tea.
Bitterness and
No,
no.
it's how I want you to feel.
Okay.
It's the coziness, and you can smell a book, and now you can taste a book. And then I did one that's totally Assam instead of totally awesome. That was my tribute to my Valley Girl of the 40th anniversary. I did the tea for that. But yeah, tea is it's one of my love languages, and so you can drink me.
The descriptions are great. The descriptions
Thank you.
are.
I wrote them. Thanks.
So how did you end up in Taos?
That was just one of those mysterious things where I was visiting a friend whose daughter was friends with my daughter, and when I got to Taos, my body just said, "Don't make me go back to Los Angeles. Don't make me do it." And so, and there's the mountain decides if you're staying there or not. And then, that sounds woo woo, but go and see for yourself. There's a dead volcano there. It reminds me of Maui. There's a confrontational piece to that mountain, but the light's amazing. You can see in every direction. It's a trippy place. It is a really magical spot.
Nice. And you're also you're a podcaster as well. This is not new to you. This little forum thing we do here. You're for the Writers Guild, right? And then for other things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out if I want to do something totally on my own. But yeah, I volunteer and I do some podcasts for the Writers Guild because I'm obsessed with storytelling, and I just love talking to people about storytelling. It's one of my favorite topics to nerd out about. Structure, the mechanics of it, best practices, which writing tools they're using physically and on the computer. All of it is really interesting to me because when a story gets hatched, you're like, is this a poem, a song, a short story, a sitcom? The ideas have a life of their own, and so that's even interesting. What kind of a thing it is?
I bookmarked the Bill Hader one because I just love Barry. I gotta revisit that. Like that, I loved him. I love that show.
That was really fun.
Yeah,
that was fun.
I bet.
I wish you had known back then. What a great communicator you are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, I love it.
All right. What final questions? What do you got?
In '82, would you even step foot in the Galleria in 1980?
Oh yeah, I loved the Galleria. Are you kidding me?
I know you loved it, but like after Valley Girl, could you step into the Galleria, or would you go incognito?
I was incognito. I had my friends call me Debbie.
What? Well, there's a fun fact. I need a plain, ordinary name. Wasn't named after any? You didn't want to be Marie or Carol? No. It was always.
I went a classic Valley traditional name that I could just. So my friends were like, "Oh, Debbie."
Said like that, we know who you are.
Exactly.
I think like your 40th high school reunion's coming up. Are you going to be there?
Well, I left school in 10th grade.
Oh, okay.
And I took.
People don't remember that.
I got my diploma early, but I am considered still part of the I think it is the class of 85.
2025? You're going to go?
Yeah,
we should go.
We'll see. Thanks a lot, guys.
It was so nice to meet you. It was thank you for doing
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.
All right. Valley Girl Moon, Unit Zappa. There's one Valley Girl to another. Were you happy with the results? With talking to someone who grew up in the 80s like us in the Valley?
I totally, as I said earlier.
Totally.
Did I just say that? I did say that because that is our vernacular now. She pinpointed it back then, and it is still in our vernacular today. So yes.
I mean, you think about the word like for sure, totally, oh my God, awesome.
Oh my God is part of everyone's everyday sentence.
But you have to, it's got to go up an octave. Oh my God. It's got to be that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy how this song, this like novelty song, just is inside our brain. So when we say things, it's vernacular that we said 40 years ago, over 40 years ago, but we still, like as an exclamation, we use these terms.
But you said as a novelty song. I don't think Moon thought Frank saw it as a novelty song. It became that for us.
Nothing is intended as a novelty. You never know.
It was novel.
You never know what's going to become a meme. Suddenly, eating pets is a meme. So you know.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? It was really kind of a treat to talk to Moon Zappa, and thank you so much to Moon for her time and sharing so many stories, and for her memoir. What is the memoir? Please tell us more about this.
Oh, her memoir is called Earth to Moon, a memoir.
Well, I'd like to thank Martin Wilson and Sarah Falter. They are at HarperCollins. They helped facilitate this interview. Thank you so much. Thank you to Pantheon Podcasts.
And thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, social media. How do you follow us?
WDDIM Podcast on social media, and What Difference Does It Make Podcast on YouTube.
Moonunit.com is her website. You can learn all about, she's doing her world tour. She's got her own personalized teas.
She channeled her love of tea into making tea.
We channeled our love of radio into podcasting. So, you know what you know. You take lemons and you make lemonade. So that's what we do here at the old podcast factory. We have new episodes every Friday. So please subscribe. Click that subscribe button. Follow us on you can see our website, wddimpodcast.com, which stands for What Difference Does It Make Podcast. Let's wrap this up like we do every Friday. Until next week, this is Dave.
This is Holly.
Check you later.
Over and out.
The Jeremiah Show is proudly featured on Pantheon Podcasts. Don't miss an exciting episode of The Jeremiah Show. You're invited to the world of pop culture, music icons, and food gods. Find Jeremiah at thejeremiahshow.com or on all social networks and back catalogs at Linktree, Jeremiah D. Higgins.
I am Miles Zuniga from Fastball.
And we are Girl Named Tom.
Hi, I'm Marielle Hemingway.
Hi, this is Chef Melissa King from Top Chef All Stars.
Hi there, everybody. This is Ann H.
Hi, I'm Shadow Stevens. I'm having a great time on The Jeremiah Show, the greatest show in the history of the world.
The Jeremiah Show is brought to you by Evolve Entertainment Network, Pantheon Podcasts, and Radio Candy Media.
I do hope you enjoyed that interview. I'm sorry that Jeremiah is so hopeless. I did made a real effort to sort of get through the sludge and the drudgery and the cliches and the second-rate ideas. I hope I didn't disappoint you too much. And as far as Jeremiah is concerned, do write in, because if you do, we can do something about this.